Nintendo 2 Revolution, what to expect? So 8 years have passed since the release of the original Nintendo Switch. Tell me more about that, Jonathan.
Man, the 8 years ago, I was literally, I think, still in college at the time, and literally the Switch was this awesome thing. I want to say this is the first time that Nintendo isn't necessarily giving us a gimmick based on the trailer that they put out as far as the big reveal. We start the Nintendo 64 back in the day where we have a boomerang controller with the analog stick. So that was looking funky. Then we go to the GameCube and it's all cubular. One of my favorite consoles, by the way. Awesome. Super Smash Bros. Melee was on it. Super Mario Sunshine, Mario Kart Double Dash, tons of games. Awesome. Then we go with the Wii where we start having the motion sensors.
Yeah, we start going Wii. Yeah, no, that was fun. I got one of those. I got trapped into getting a Wii instead of getting a PS3, and I had a ton of fun. But
you regretted that whole, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. But it's one of those things that it was captivating for certain ages, for certain games, right? That you could really leverage the motion controller and all that stuff. But I think we share the same opinion where for more serious gaming, it was lacking.
Yeah, playing Call of Duty on that, you missed out on that.
Yeah.
For sure, like Black Ops 2. But yeah, no, it was still revolutionary, sold very well, very family-oriented console. Then we start going into the Wii U. Man, great concept, but I feel like it just wasn't executed properly at all. But basically, it started the hybrid environment of you're gaming on a tablet while also having the Wii peripherals, and it tried to build on that, but I don't think people really understood what the Wii U really was. And then finally we go to the Nintendo Switch where we have the ability to game on the couch or on the go. Totally depends on you, and you're able to play, games like The Witcher, Mario Kart, things that you weren't able to do before.
Yeah, it opened a whole new market, segment, right? For a lot of companies. So obviously there's competitors out there. Now, keeping the Switch as like the contender to beat within this mobile gaming situation, what are we expecting out of the Switch 2?
Yeah, we don't know from a pricing point of view. Price has been one of the biggest questions. We don't know what it is yet. My guess would be $399, honestly, but it could go $450, and I think $5 would honestly be pushing it.
I mean, with prices these days, we can expect it to go north, right?
Then again, yeah, everything's going up, especially with tariffs. Yeah, who knows where it go? But I'd say at a minimum of $399. I think that's where that sweet spot is going to be, but you never know. What we know so far is that the Nintendo Switch 2 will have a larger display over the original Nintendo Switch. We have the upgraded Joy-Cons. They've made tweaks to the Joy-Con where the Nintendo Switch 2s are actually more magnetic. Hopefully they've addressed the drifting on the new analog sticks. I mean, I'm hoping they really have that figured out. That was one of the biggest flaws of the Nintendo Switch originally, that, hey, after some usage, you'll experience some drifting. We've also added a second USB-C port at the top of the Nintendo Switch.
What's that going to be for?
We don't know yet. That kind of gives me the impression that we'll have the ability to have extra peripherals or extra accessories for the Nintendo Switch.
Maybe a VR?
Maybe. Nintendo's lacking in terms of the innovation, but who knows? They might bring that along. Or we might have a third-party company that looks into that. They also have a new kickstand that looks mighty improved over the current one. The current one is very flimsy. Or they made improvements to the OLED model as far as the kickstand goes, but this one even builds upon that.
What about the screen? Are we gonna see an OLED screen still, or do you see them cutting costs in that area?
So I think they're going to actually be cutting costs. I think they're going to be going for an LCD model. I think what they'll actually do, for real, is when they do announce the new Nintendo Switch 2, they're probably going to still sell the original Nintendo Switch, but they're probably not going to sell the OLED model because that would create a conflict in the market where we have the OLED offering, but we're pushing the new product to be LCD. I think they're probably only going to sell the Nintendo Switch, maybe the Lite model, or the old original Nintendo Switch, but maybe even somehow lower spec, just to give families more options.
What about internals?
Yeah, that's going to be the biggest mystery. I'll tell you from my perspective as far as what to expect, what the rumors are. It looks like it's going to be, the graphics card is going to be from NVIDIA. I'm really hoping from a handheld perspective that we're going to actually be able to play in 1080p versus 720 today. So I'm hoping 1080 in today's world should be the standard by this point.
Right.
When it's going to be docked, I'm hoping that we can push 1440p as the realistic goal and the stretch goal to be 4K gaming. Do I think 4K is going to happen? Maybe. I want to say no, but NVIDIA just put out their new AI capability technology, so they may be able to do it through upscaling technologies. Maybe it might not be native, but upscale.
Yeah, guess we'll put out a video when the Switch 2 comes out, and we'll share our thoughts on the specs and what actually gets announced, and hopefully they'll give us a little bit of an insight into the future of the Switch.
Yeah, I think lastly, in terms of what to expect, probably like a more longer battery. It has to be more efficient in order to game, and then probably more storage. Games are getting bigger and bigger, so I cannot see them continuing 32 gig, 64 gig.
Yeah, there's gradual improvements of, any device nowadays, faster processor, more battery life, more storage. I think it's just what we're gonna see trending, over the next few years and maybe forever.
Yeah, no, but I think it's really cool about Nintendo that they've hit the Moneyball idea, the Powerball idea. They literally hit the lotto with the Switch. And I'm liking that they're not deviating from that and just continue building on what's working. What about y'all? Is there a feature or a need, a want that we didn't address? What's your perspective on the Switch 2? Is that something that you're going to buy immediately once it gets announced for pre-order? Let us know in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe.